Hi everyone, Emily again today. I know you haven't seen much of my alters recently, but I've just sort of been not struggling with my mental health exactly, but my mental health's been a bit rocky. And for me and our system, that basically means that my alters don't front as much. And I don't want to make them uncomfortable and force them to come out for you guys, so it's just going to be me for a little while, and it is, my myriad thoughts. So just my myriad of things that I think of and want to talk to you guys about. So today's going to be slightly different. It's kind of, I suppose, a bit more of a vlog. It's sort of a bit more scripted as well. I don't usually script any of my videos, but I wanted to write this one down while I was thinking of it at the time, because I'm a bit scatterbrained sometimes. And we'll see how that goes, see if I like it, see if you guys like it. So basically, I'm gonna just sort of tell you a little bit about a process that I've been going through, but I've got my notes here, so I'm just gonna read that to you guys. So please let me know in the comments if this doesn't work for you, if you prefer me just sort of like going off the cuff, and maybe I won't like it very much. So basically, I always want to try and be the best person I can be, but I don't really spend much time actually doing that or putting in the work to improve or change, or even really find out what exactly I want to change. But recently, I thought I'd work on my game frustration. So let me explain a little bit about what I mean by that. Basically, within games, I can get very irritated quickly, even grumpy and quiet, and sometimes quite snappy and lash out at the people I'm playing the games with. Especially if I'm really struggling at the game, like if I'm finding it difficult. I find it the most difficult if I'm playing a multiplayer game when everybody else in the game seems to be better at it than me. Really good at aiming and things like that, which I'm not particularly great at. I mostly play multiplayer games as well because, one, I find them more fun to share with people, but two, if I get stuck on anything, like, I can ask for help and there are people there. But basically, I didn't and don't like how I am when I get really frustrated and snappy. And I wanted to see if there was a way I could work on it, try and improve, you notice something you dislike about yourself, and I wanted to try and better myself in some way. So me and Nick, who I live with, Pepper's boyfriend, but we're all really close here, pick some games, and they're kind of games that I would not usually choose to play on my own. I can't remember exactly which ones we chose, but they're ones that would really challenge me, but they were all single player games. They were all difficult that I would try on my own. Well, not necessarily difficult, but difficult for me. So we wanted me to do them alone so that I have to push through this struggle of I find this difficult, I just want to give up, or I just want to get help from this. So I'm doing the game, but Nick was going to be there with me. So I'm not alone, but I'm doing the game alone. So I can't have help, but I've got the moral support. So basically the aim was to do a game that would elicit this feeling, this frustration, this sort of I can't do it sort of feeling, and then try and sit with it and breathe through it and remind myself that it's just a video game and that it's not failing, it's just I haven't completed it yet. Go through all of these thoughts, all of these processes, and try and see if I could overcome that feeling. So the game that we started with was Portal. I don't know if you guys know much about it, but essentially a puzzle game, which is a genre that I usually avoid like the plague, because puzzle games I find really difficult, and I don't like that feeling of struggling or that I am, just stupid. It makes me feel stupid. And to start with, playing Portal was quite good. It was quite fun because the stages move on in a way that they move on from each other. So you learn a skill, then you use that skill and it teaches you another skill, and so on and so forth. So it's very helpful at helping you succeed. So I did struggle a couple of times, but I worked it out, and even when I got emotional, so I do get quite emotional when I'm really struggling with things. I get a lump in my throat and teary-eyed. I was able to do exactly what I set out to do, which is to breathe through it, remind myself it's just a game, and keep going. And at this point, I was already starting to realise that it wasn't just frustration that I would feel about not, getting it very quickly with these games. I was already realising that maybe there's something more going on here. So it got to one of the later levels, and it was already quite late in the day. I had already got that far, in one day, and I got to a point where it was suddenly too much. I got to one level that I tried and kept trying, but I was just not getting it. There was something I was missing, and I could tell that I hadn't quite pieced it together. There was something I was missing. There was, you can tell when you know that you're not quite getting it. And for some reason at that time, it just something clicked and I snapped. I swore at the game. I was like, this is so fucking stupid. I'm just not getting it. And was, very snappy. I didn't yell at Nick. But I did instead just heavily give him the control. I didn't throw it, but just put the controller down on him and got out. I just got out of there and went up to my office. And that was when things started to go a bit downhill. So I felt a lot of feelings, but they were all, I'm a failure. And that I fail at everything, and that everything I try to do ever, I fail at, and just the core was just that I'm a failure. So, as you can imagine, this was a really big deal. This was a really big, vulnerable moment for me, and it's quite a little bit hard to share this. Because I don't like, just coming on here and being like, oh, I'm struggling, because although I think it's important to share struggles so that people know that struggling is okay, and that people aren't alone and all that sort of thing, I don't want to just be a complaining channel to you guys. But basically I'm going to carry on with this story kind of deal, and it's not just about this moment. This moment was key in also making me realise that my anger and frustration comes from a fear of failure. I don't know why it turns into frustration and irritation, but it does. But it seems to be from the core feeling is that I'm a failure. So I was reminded of all these different life events and all these different situations and scenarios where I fail, and where I have failed, and basically felt like I could achieve nothing. That was where I was at the time, and it was a big sort of mental crash, and I wasn't feeling great afterwards. So Luke came over, my husband came over, because he heard that I was sobbing and was there to hold me and comfort me, and we didn't try and solve the problem. We just acknowledged that I felt awful, and it was quite late at night by that point, so we just took some time to relax and stop breathing so irregularly and all that. Took time to calm down, took time to just feel okay, not good, but okay, and then we went to bed. So the next day I went back to the video game. that to me and from me is a massive big deal, that I didn't just give up and say I can't do it, I'm not doing it anymore. I was determined to try and overcome this, and I want to, with any, you know, any issues and anything that I find that I don't like about myself, I want to work on and keep trying and not give up. You know, I often, you know, think that I'm lazy and stuff, but if I can just not give up and keep persevering, then that's a really cool thing. So I didn't give up, and I went back to it the next day with Nick. We sat down and we started playing some more of the game, and you know what? I got past that level I was stuck on. My brain was in a better state, and I was able to look at it from a different angle, and I got past, which teaches me again that it's not a failure to be struggling with something at the time, because it doesn't mean that you're not going to get it, you know? So you know, that whole thing about being a failure was completely unfounded, because I'm not a failure, because I was able to achieve it the next day, sort of thing. So basically this little story that I'm sharing with you guys is about how one of my biggest struggles and insecurities is my fear of failure. And also how that can come across in different ways. So that might come across as me being irritable, or rude, and it's something that I want to work on and try and keep getting better at. I also think it's very interesting to look at video games as a tool to teach this to people. So for example, most of the people I hang out with have played video games from a young age, and the video games seem to teach them to try until you get it. And then when you do get it, these people have described this sense of euphoria, this sense of, you know, we did it, I achieved this, and it feels really good. Whereas I found doing this that I never felt like I succeeded. So even when I passed this level I'd been really stuck on and came back to it the next day and did it, I still didn't feel like I'd achieved anything. And in fact, I sort of kept saying to myself, well, it must be because it's a fairly easy game that I'd managed to pass it. It must be a fairly easy game, and I still struggled to pass it. So my brain is still trying to find a way to put me down, and I'm still trying to combat that and, you know, disagree. Like I've explained before, there's the two hands. There's one hand that keeps, you know, trying to put me down, and the other hand that's my logic and my critical thinking, and challenges that. So basically I'm also trying to sort of explain that sometimes I do go through some really rough patches and my mental health really does struggle, but I'm doing okay, and I'm finding ways to overcome it and deal with it, and also that it's okay to struggle. You know, like if you're struggling with your mental health, like it's okay. Like obviously it's not a good thing, and it's not something that I wish upon anybody, but there's no reason to feel shamed or guilty or to try and hide it. You know, people that really care about you will want to know and want to be able to offer you that support and love. And that's something that I'm still trying to work on, is not being ashamed of it, because there's a massive stigma with mental health that it's on you, it's your fault because it's in your brain, and you need to try and rise up to the standards of everybody else. You know, you need to be okay for everybody else. But if there's things that you struggle with, or, you know, certain different coping mechanisms that you have to help you with things, like, try and accept those, and, you know, everybody should accept them, you know, like people you're with should accept those. Anyway, I won't go off on another tangent, but basically this is just sharing one of my mental health struggles that I've tried to overcome and challenge, in the hopes that, one, you enjoy hearing me chat about random things, and that you can feel maybe motivated that one, it's okay to struggle, but two, to try and challenge certain things that you're not happy with about your mental state. Obviously, I am not a therapist, and I am hoping to get a therapist, and none of this is, judgment or saying that this is how you should feel, this is what you should do, like, none of that. Like, if it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Like, don't challenge things on your own if they are, a personal struggle. But it's just something that I did, and I'm trying to hope that... obviously it didn't work for me because it made me have a big old mental crash and feel like a failure, but that did teach me something. I don't know if any of this is making any sense, really, but I enjoy being open and sharing some of my life events and struggles and things with you guys. And I think it's important for people to share these things. I think more people, should. I think it should be more okay to share mental health stories. So that's where I'm going to leave it today. And I really hope that you all have an amazing day. I hope you're all doing okay. I really hope you enjoyed the video. And if you'd like, give it a like. Please give me comments on anything that you want to see, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So bye bye guys.